And just like there's no guarantee that the government or a collective is going to be morally righteous or adhere to the rule of law, I also don't believe there's any guarantee that private interests will automatically do something evil and antisocial. These are negative human traits that, yes, can be incentivized depending on the systems in which they're operating in, but the potential for anyone to express these things depends on who they are as individuals in addition to the external conditions. Because to go back to those four countries that I've used, throughout this whole video, Germany, Austria, Singapore, Chile, all of them have had to deal with fascist, neoliberal, right-wing authoritarian disruptions to their entire system for decades, having to pick up the pieces, and none of them are even close to being what you would call a democratic socialist, communist, or, anarchist, saying paradise. And yet they have managed to implement policies that haven't even been successfully done in countries with way more resources, with way more clout, that are supposed to be more modernized, more industrialized, and whatnot, right? Because it all comes down to, again, not just the systems in which you operate, but also the willpower and the individual vision of those who are trying to push through these different programs and whatnot. I just cannot accept this premise that I hear in left-wing and progressive circles that capitalism will be defeated, or that it even should be defeated, and that most people will then automatically become more cooperative or agreeable, or that these negative traits won't just manifest themselves in other means. Yes, disincentivize the ability to profit by exploiting these different traits and in this manner, but don't think that they're going to be going anywhere. Alienation, greed, and all the other negative traits that I referred to throughout this video are human things, and somebody who's going to manifest these behaviors is not being influenced by some brainwashing or some evil that is unique to them or unique to their time. It is a human impulse, and different people will latch onto it in different parts of their lives depending on how things go. It's never going to stop. Also, and this is kind of one of the last things, it's easy to think about these hypothetical scenarios where everything goes good. And again, in these circles, when I hear, saying plans about, how to change things, there's rarely, if ever, any notice and acceptance of the fact of the negative trade-offs or negative potentials of, saying changing things up, of having a revolution. For example, this isn't so much with a revolution, but more sticking to the housing issue and dealing with other residents. If you are in a building and it's shared amongst you and a bunch of, people, some friends, some strangers or whatnot, right? And somebody stops paying their rent, whether it's for a specific demand or it's from financial hardships, at what point do you decide that your bias is going to affect your judgment in allowing that person to continue on with that arrangement or ending the arrangement? I know that this is really like a granular point, but it is something that's worth discussing, and it's not something that I hear brought up enough. Or another one is that what if a tenant is engaging in behavior that is, while not explicitly evil, is something that's rubbing people the wrong way and is maybe bringing some negative consequences or negative attention to the community? At what point do you decide that, okay, we're going to kick them out, or we don't have enough support from the community? It hasn't been decided democratically, but you may need to go around that and say, hey, just call the police, call the law enforcement, call the government and whatnot. And it will be an unpopular decision that is ultimately going to have positive consequences for most people involved. Again, this is very granular, but when discussing these systems and discussing the potential for change, we can't just talk about the ways in which stuff now isn't working and the way in which our ideal systems would be the best things, saying around. We have to acknowledge both sides. What are the ways in which the system right now is working and also not working? And in what way can our potential idealized program, saying be more productive or be more negative? Simple as that. At the end of the day, people are petty, people are complacent, people are short-sighted, and people look for advantages wherever they can find them. Call me a rad lib, call me a champagne socialist, saying call me, whatever. I don't care. I don't care about what the, the next cool, saying leftist or progressive coping mechanism is being used to justify them not participating in these systems or not addressing the contradictions or shortcomings of their ideology, because it's going to create too many, saying disruptions to their worldview and who they think themselves to be. Overall, I believe in some level of decommodification in markets such as housing, food, water, and utilities, but also smarter regulations of these goods and services in general, as well as raising taxes on speculators and hoarders of wealth, land, and resources. Whatever you want to call that, that's what I believe.